Hey everybody, it's GobletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing my very first sealed event of the March the Machine format. So without further ado, let's bust open our 6 packs and see what we get to play with today. Alright, so as you can see, busting open the packs, we don't actually get to see all of our rares in this format. Arena is programmed to just show you 6 when you open the packs, but this is a format with the Multiverse Legends card slot where you can open multiple rares in each booster pack. So we have 8 rares total, but this is only 6 of them, so I'm going to move over to the deck builder to take a perusal over all 8 of our rares at once. Alright, so here's a look at all 8 of our rares. We're going to start off with Invasion of Theros. This does show off the new battle card type, which is pretty cool. You put this on the board under your opponent's control, and then you have to deal 4 damage to it to flip it, so your opponent can defend it just like they defend a Planeswalker. So you have to find a way through their creatures to flip this and get the value off of it. This is the rare I'm going over first because it's the rare that we're definitely not going to play. I don't think we have any gods or demigods in our sealed pool. I guess we'll find out. We will double check. But if we're just using this to pull out an aura, it's not going to be the greatest, especially with not a very high enchantment count for the flip side of Farah Ever Sheltering. So pretty narrow card, but cool to show off the battle mechanic. Next up, we have Knight Errant of Eos, which is a pretty good white Convoke card. 5 mana for a 4/4. Convoke means we can tap our creatures to get mana out of our creatures to cast the spell. And this is going to let us look at the top 6 cards of our library when it enters the battlefield and reveal up to 2 creatures with mana value X or less from among them, where X is the number of creatures that convoked it. So basically, a 5 mana 4/4 Convoke's not the greatest, but if we can draw at least 1 creature off this card after we convoke it onto the board, then it'll be a pretty good value play, slamming a 4/4 down onto the board and picking up another creature to cast later. So I think it is a pretty solid card for sure, especially if we have enough creatures to convoke it for a lot, making it more likely that we can pick up 2 creature cards from the top 6. Next up, we have Bloated Processor. This is probably one of the most consistently powerful rares we have so far. 3 mana for a 3/2 Phyrexian. You can sacrifice another Phyrexian to put a +1/+1 counter on it. That is at instant speed, which makes the ability not something we're going to use all the time, but it is pretty nice against removal spells from our opponent. If they're going to blow up another one of our Phyrexians anyway, we might as well get a +1/+1 counter out of the deal, which is nice. And then when this dies, we get to incubate X, where X is its power. So we get an incubator token with X +1/+1 counters on it, and then we can flip that token for 2 mana later to turn it into a creature with that many +1/+1 counters on it. It is a 0/0 on the flip side. Was trying to look at the token, but it pulls open. There we go. There's the Phyrexian 0/0 token. So basically, 3 mana 3/2 that dies into an incubator token that can flip into a 3/3 is already great, and the rest of the text is just upside. So pretty big fan of the Bloated Processor. And our next rare is also quite powerful, Hoarding Broodlord. Very expensive card, 8 mana for a 7/6 flyer, but it's got that magical word Convoke on it, meaning that we can tap our creatures to help cast it, get it out earlier in the game. When it enters the battlefield, we search our library for a card, exile it face down and shuffle, and for as long as the card remains exiled, we can play it. And as long as Hoarding Broodlord remains on the board, spells that we cast from exile have Convoke. So worst case scenario, an 8 mana 7/6 flyer with Convoke is going to be a pretty big late game threat, and we get to tutor out any other spell from our deck, so whatever our second most powerful card is at the time is going to be in exile for us to cast. Even if our opponent destroys our Hoarding Broodlord, we can still cast that spell from exile later. So card is a phenomenal way to top off your curve, and that's 2 very good black rares, so I'm very interested in the color. Moving on to green, we have Deeproot Wayfinder. Great way to start a game off. 2 mana for a 2/3 is above average stats, and it has a great little combat ability. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or battle, we get to surveil 1. That means look at the top card of our library, put it into the graveyard if we want. Then we can return a land from our graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So nice little self-milled dork to try to put some lands in the grave and then ramp us up. So 2 mana 2/3 with a nice bit of added upside, just a pretty solid card in general. We then have Invasion of Ixalan. This is a battle I'm much more interested in than our Invasion of Theros, because it's much more consistent. For 1 and a green, we're going to get to look at the top 5 cards of our library, put a permanent from among them into our hand, and the rest on the bottom of our library. So it's basically impossible for that to not hit something. We'll get a land at worst, but often we'll have our choice between a land or a creature, whatever we need at the time. And if we can deal 4 damage to this battle, then we get a nice 4/3 trample that gets indestructible every turn we cast a spell. That is really, really nice threat if we can flip the battle. So seems like another great green card there. And last but not least in green, we have Eudora Grave Gardener. 5 mana, 5/5 legendary tree folk druid. Whenever another non-token creature we control dies, we can return it to the battlefield face down as a forest. So basically, every time our other creatures die, they do get to turn into mana dorks for us. So that's pretty good if we end up in a deck that doesn't have a lot of graveyard recursion, where we don't care that the creatures won't end up in the graveyard if we flip them. And the final card in multicolor, we have Zerda the Dawnwaker, which is a very cool companion. This is one of the hardest ones to build around. It would be really, really hard to have a deck with enough permanents with activated abilities to really run this in the companion slot. You have to have all permanents in your deck have an activated ability to be able to play this as basically your commander. That's how companions work. You basically get to have commander in limited or in standard or in whatever format the companions are in. You just have to spend 3 mana to put your commander into your hand. So pretty good if you can get it in the companion slot, but pretty impossible to do that, especially in sealed. That being said, it can be main deckable if we're already in red or white. I don't see it as a huge reason to be in those colors, but if we are already in the colors, it does reduce all activated abilities that we activate by 2 less mana. It can't make them cost less than 1, but it can make it so when we flip our incubate tokens, instead of costing 2 mana to do that, it will only cost 1 mana. And if we have any other more expensive activated abilities, it'll help even more. So pretty cool card, but not something really pulling us into red or white. So pretty great rares. I think the best ones are in black and green here, so we'll keep that in mind. But let's start looking at the entire sealed pool as a whole, starting off with the multicolored and colorless. So for colorless cards that could end up in any deck, we've got some really mediocre stuff. Kite Sail could be okay if we don't have a lot of flyers or any good ways to get through board stalls. Flywheel Racer can be okay if we really need fixing and we have a lot of early creatures to crew it, to let it tap for that mana of any color. And if we're incredibly aggressive, we can use Halo Hopper as a cheap little threat. The Urn of Godfires are kind of our backup plan mana fixing if we end up playing 3 or 4 colors and we really need mana fixing. This is like if you're desperate for mana fixing or if you're desperate for removal, it can make the cut, but you would much rather play better versions of either of those abilities. So nothing super exciting in colorless. I don't think we're particularly likely to run any of these, but there's some potential options depending on how our deck looks. Take a look at our multicolored now to see if we have any gold uncommons here that could push us in any specific directions. We definitely do. I don't really treat these Phyrexian flippers as gold cards because this is a format where, with battles running around and with a little bit of incidental life gain, it is really not that hard to just pay 2 life and flip these. So you really don't need the secondary color of mana. You can spend that Phyrexian 2 life to flip the Seraph in a mono white deck, the 2 life to flip the Dune Shaper in a mono white deck, and so on. So not going to consider these as reasons to be in specific 2-color pairs. So we're going to move on to the actual 2-color cards over here. We have 2 Stormclaw Rager. Could be a good reason to go for red-black Sacrifice if we have some other good synergy pieces, because having 2 of the Signpost uncommon that really benefits from sacrificing a bunch of creatures and artifacts is already going to make our deck pretty consistently just doing what it wants to do, sacrificing stuff. We then have Marshal of Zhalfir. If we have a ton of knights in our sealed pool, this can be quite a powerful way to buff them up and also leave behind a nice little tapper. Rada Coalition Warlord is probably the least exciting of our multicolored cards. I just don't think that we're going to be trying to play a very domain-heavy deck playing a bunch of different land types, so not that interested in Rada, but for in red-green, they're definitely playable. And then finally, we have Invasion of Kylem. 4 mana, 5 defense battle. Just gives a couple creatures +2/+0 vigilance haste. If you can flip it, it's quite powerful, getting 2 3/2s that keep getting +1/+1 counters when they attack. It's pretty nice, but you do really have to be able to flip it because the front side's not that exciting. So, not a huge reason I think to push into red-white, but if we're already in the color pair, could be solid. Other than that, looks like we've got some dual lands. We've got the blue-white dual, the green-white dual, the green-blue dual. So our duals are all overlapping with green, white, and blue, but our strongest uncommons are in black and red. Our strongest rares are in black. Yeah, don't know how helpful these dual lands will be, but we'll keep them in mind as we look through each color individually now, starting off with white. Sorting our creatures and non-creatures now. Let's see what we've got. We've got pretty solid removal in white. 2 Realm Breaker's Grasp. Not the greatest removal spell in the universe. It does basically shut off the creature, but if that creature has a very nice triggered ability or just a static ability that it has on the board, like giving all of their creatures +1/+1, you don't get to shut that off with this. And if your opponent has any ways to sacrifice the creature or destroy the enchantment later, they can still get value off of the creature either by saving it from the Realm Breaker's Grasp or just by sacrificing it for value. So one of the actually weaker removal spells. It's really mana efficient though to make up for it, only 2 mana, so still very playable. We've got 2 of that, and we also have a cut short, which is fine. It has some of the same issues that Realm Breaker's Grasp has, where if they have a creature that's just giving them a very good ability that they don't need to attack with to use it, it's not going to do anything against that. Or if they have a good creature with vigilance, it's not going to do anything against that. So can't kill anything. It is a little bit situational. Or can't kill everything. It's a little situational in that sense, but still definitely good enough to make the cut. So we've got 3 decent white removal spells. Great combat trick with Angelic Intervention. The protection is huge. You can win combat with that, or you can counter removal spells with it. Phyrexian Awakening is a super flexible card. Basically a 5 mana 4/4 Vigilance if you pay it all up front. Otherwise, 3 mana to get the front half of the card out, and then spend 2 mana at any later point to get your 4/4. I like the Alabaster Host Intercessor a lot because it's great early and great late. If you're not drawing enough lands, you can plane cycle it, and if you top decked it late, it's a removal spell and a creature all in one. Aeronaut is fine. Knight Errant is great. Tiller Flesh, probably okay in here. We have Realm Breaker's Grasp, Cut Short, and Angelic Intervention for spells that target a permanent to incubate. Quende doesn't really do much of anything if you don't have any first strikers, and it doesn't look like we have any first strikers in white in our sealed pool. 4 mana for a 2/2 double strike is a little overcosted. The general rate for that is like a 3 mana 2/2 double strike. I like the Sigiled Sentinel a lot. 3 mana 3/3 Vigilance at worst. At best, you back up on your flyer or something for a great attack. Quite like the Seraph, just like little 2/2 flyers in the format. Billy Rider's pretty filler, Invasion's pretty filler, although I guess we do have 2 Realm Breaker's Grasp to draw off of Invasion of Theros, so it would be playable here, just still not that exciting. A lot of 2/2 flyers, not a lot of 1 or 2 mana creatures though, which could be an issue, so white looks okay, not like super exciting, but definitely not unplayable. Checking out our blue now. We've got Expedition Lookout, pretty filler little defender. Cryptomancer's a fine way to counter removal. Skyclave Aerialist is a great flip card. 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer is already great in the format. Nice evasive threat. And if you manage to flip this, you get to draw a card at worst, and at best, put a land from the top of your library onto the board, which is super sweet. Really don't like taxing counterspells like Assimilate Essence. Change the Equation's also not very flexible. Moment of Truth is fine card draw. Strobe Knight is excellent in the right deck. If you have a lot of battles or a lot of Convoke, that will make this card really easy to trigger to have the 2 spells per turn. Other than that, you have to have a really efficient curve. But with battles, you cast the front half of the battle. Then if you defeat the battle, you also cast the second half of the battle when you flip it. So that does count as casting 2 spells if you play a battle, hit it for 4 in the sky, and immediately flip it. So that's a great way to use the Strobe Knight, but also Convoke, because you can just spend your mana to cast a creature, and then tap a bunch of your creatures to cast your Convoke spell. So another great way to use the Strobe Knight. This is just a premium uncommon. In my opinion, I think this thing's insane, because already a 3 mana 2/2 Flying Vigilance does put in work. We've got Protocol Knight, which is also excellent. 4 mana 3/4 is not that understated for the cost, and it comes with a very good ability if you have another knight on the board, tapping down a creature and stunning it. Temporal Cleansing and Wicked Slumber are both fine pieces of interaction that have Convoke, which makes them really nice. Instants with Convoke are super, super sweet because you get to play the defensive, holding up all your blockers, and then still use your blockers to Convoke something. So those are really, really nice. Halo Charge Scab's fine, Tidal Terror's fine, Thunderhead Squadron's fine. A bunch of fine stuff. A couple really exciting things like the Strobe Knight, the Aerialist, but just like 2 of them and everything else is pretty average. I think I'm still going to say blue's just about average, because in this format with so many like really powerful cards like Bloated Processor and Hoarding Broodlord, I don't think I'm going to call a color that doesn't have like a single solid like bomb above average. I'll just say average for that blue, even though we have good commons and uncommons there. So we are on to the black now, where we have Hoarding Broodlord at the top of the curve. We have Bloated Processor in the middle here. We have some of the best flip cards in the color as well. Aetherblade Agents are sweet. A 2-mana 1/1 Death Toucher is always going to be able to trade up into a bigger creature later in the game on blocks. And if you're in a good position to start attacking, you can spend 4 mana and 2 life to turn this into a 3/3 Death Toucher that draws a card every time it hits your opponent or a battle, which is really good. If you can draw a card or 2 off of this, you're just getting a great deal there. So I really like these Aetherblade Agents. I think Dread Recycler is nice as well. 2 mana 2/2 with a great little flexible ability. Our 1-drops are pretty nice. Ichor Drinker gives us 2 bodies off of 1 card, which isn't relevant for every single deck, but it is definitely relevant for like the Black-Red Sacrifice deck, and we do have the 2 Storm Drinker things in red-black, the Signpost Uncommons, where the Ichor Drinker can be great with those. Got Scornblade Berserker, which is great for a Sacrifice deck, and really just any deck. You can just play this as a 1-mana 1/2, get in some hits with it, and then block and chump block and draw a card off of it later to get your value back out of it, which is really nice. Revelation, I haven't been super impressed by. Field Conversion's not the best removal, but we don't have any other removal in black, so we probably will play it. Collective Nightmare. Oh, we do have other removal. We've got Collective Nightmare. Didn't even recognize the name. But yeah, this one's excellent. Again, instants with Convoke are really easy to hold up. Even if you tap out all of your mana, if you just have 3 creatures on board you're planning to block with, now you get to hold up all your blockers and have this as a trick during combat or a removal spell at the end of their turn. Really, really nice. And Seal the Necropolis has played really a lot better than it looks in the format because there are so many really high value creatures that you can recur with it. Like if we play a Bloated Processor, trade it off at some point in the game, get our Incubator token, then just later unseal the Necropolis, pick up the Processor and anything else, even if it's just a Berserker, it's a pretty good piece of value. Also, even if the game doesn't go like that, maybe we've just lost an Aetherblade Agent or something. If we use Unseal the Necropolis, we're milling 3 more cards, so we're pretty likely to have a second creature engraved by then, and sometimes we can pick up an agent and just like mill a Hoarding Broodlord to draw with the Unseal the Necropolis, so the card is played pretty great. Yargle's fine. The 3 toughness is really bad, making it so Yargle often trades down into 3 mana cards without doing anything really. Doesn't accomplish much, but trading into a 3 mana 3/3, so actually not super likely to play Yargle without maybe running like Kite Sail or something to try to give Yargle flying or some other form of evasion. Oilcaster's fine, but a bit slow. Invasion of Eldraine is fine if we can be pretty aggressive. We've got a decent curve of 1s and 2s. If our red is pretty aggressive and we go black-red, Invasion of Eldraine could be kind of sweet. Because if you make your opponent discard 2 cards with this on turn 4, that'll often leave them with 2 or fewer cards in hand, which means if you can flip this immediately, you're going to get a really powerful evasive threat, chipping in for 2 a turn with flying and an extra 2 every turn that your opponent has 2 or less cards in hand. So this is actually kind of cool. I probably would play it with enough aggressive cheap creatures to have a strong enough board state to play it and attack it for 4 the turn that I play it. So yeah, black looks pretty good. I think black is our best color so far. If it weren't for Hoarding Broodlord and Bloated Processor, it'd be pretty on par with our white and our blue. Like we have pretty equivalent removal with our white, pretty equivalent like creatures with our blue. So even without the rares, I think it's pretty much tied with the other 2 colors, but when you put the rares into account, it's our best color by a good bit so far. Check out our red cards now. Hopefully some great stuff here. We can go black, red, sack. Could be a great place to be. Nothing looks incredible in red. No removal spells in red is kind of a bummer. But we do have some cards that work pretty well for a sacrifice deck. We have Row's Reinforcements. That's going to give us 2 1/1 elementals, which is great. Beamtown Beatstick also works well in the sacrifice archetype because if we hit our opponent with whatever we put the beatstick on, we get some treasure tokens, and a lot of the sacrifice cards can sacrifice a creature or a treasure. We also have Furnace Gremlin, which is going to be 2 rectangles in one card, two different things we can sacrifice, the gremlin itself and its incubator token. We've got Invasion of Mercadia. That's just a solid battle in general. 2 mana sorcery, discard a card, draw 2 isn't horrible. That's just Tormenting Voice, which has been pretty mediocre filler in most formats, but when you add a massive amount of upside to the back of it, I think it becomes a pretty great card. Like, Tormenting Voice is the worst case scenario, and the best case scenario where you hit this for 4, you get a pretty absurd creature. A 3/3 that lets you spend 3 mana, discard a card, make 2 1/1s, and give them all +1/+0 and haste till end of turn, gives all of your creatures +1/+0 and haste. So if you get to the late game, where you already have as many lands as you need, this is just going to make sure you're always drawing gas. If you draw a great non-land card, you can just play it. If you draw a land, all of a sudden, instead of just drawing basically a blank piece of cardboard, you're putting 2 more creatures onto the board and being able to attack with both of those creatures as 2/1s minimum, and potentially buffing up the rest of your board to make them really absurd. So this is a super great card. It's also an instant speed ability, so you can kind of ruin blocks or ruin attacks for your opponent. In a board stall position, your opponent wants to attack into you, but you just have this untapped with a card in your hand, and they have to deal with the fact that all of your creatures basically have 1 extra power on blocks, and you have 2 more creatures than it looks like you have, because you can just get 2 elementals. Yeah, if you flip Invasion of Mercadia, that thing is nuts. And if you don't flip it, it's not bad. Discard a card, draw 2. It's not good, but it's not bad unflipped. Thrashing Frontliner is pretty good at attacking that invasion, as well as the Invasion of Eldraine, so I like that. Valduk is good with our Beamtown Beatstick. Not good with anything else, though. I don't think we have any other equipment. I guess we could play Kite Sail. That'd be a bit awkward. Harried Artisan's a nice aggressive card. Another pretty flexible one where you can just play it on turn 3 on curve, but with that flip ability, the backside also has haste, so if you top deck this late game, you can just spend 6 mana total for a 3/4 flying haste, which is reasonable. You can also play it on turn 3, then flip it on turn 4, so it's just a good flexible card. War Train Slasher obviously just annihilates battles. We'd only be running 2 in black-red, but still a 4 mana 4/3 menace is not the worst upfront stats when you're not attacking battles. So you send this at a battle, it's 100% killing it if they don't block, and if they do, they have to double block because of the menace, and with 8 power, you're pretty much guaranteed to kill both of their blockers as well. Yeah, and then Furnace Host Charger, nice and flexible. We draw it early game when we don't have enough lands, we cycle it, we draw late game, we just play it. 5/5 haste. And a couple little draw spells with Ren's Resolve. Everything in red is playable. I think our worst red card's honestly Valduk, because a 3 mana 3/2 with no text is pretty bad, and we're going to have 2 equipment maximum, which is probably not consistent enough for Valduk. Yeah, red's not bad. I think it is a little bit weaker than our blue and our white for sure, because we don't have any removal in the color. But we have some things that work well for a red-black sack deck, and if we play the red, then we get access to the double Stormclaw Rager. And if I play like black-white or black-blue, I don't gain access to any extra multicolored cards that I wouldn't have had. I guess we get Zerda in red as well. That'd be fine. We have a few incubator tokens. Slightly hard to cast 3 mana 3/3. Double red and 1. I think we definitely play it. Yeah, the Stormclaw Ragers are really the stuff that gets me excited about red-black here. Check out our green now. Kind of weird, when I look at the deck like this, it always takes all the card styles off the cards, which is interesting. I didn't even know that we had the original artwork of Yadaro on Arena. So that's kind of cool to see. So we have a lot of green cards and a lot of 2-drops. Are they good? Deeproot Wayfinder is good. Invasion of Ixalan is good. Important Tracker is a nice ramp dork. Streetwise Negotiators, a 3/3 for 2. Wary Thespian, a 3/1 for 2 with a relevant ability when it hits the board and when it dies, which makes up for its low toughness. Actually, this is really good aggressive green stuff here. We've also got Cosmic Hunger, so we actually have removal out of our green. Got a fine little combat trick with Arachnoid Adaptation. Great way to stabilize later in the game with Tangled Skyline, gain a bunch of life. Flip a 5/5 on the board. Invasion of Zendikar can help us splash if we want to do that, but otherwise just only having to hit it for 3 to get a 4/4 is nice. Kavu's fine, Yadaro's fine, Sailback is fine, probably. I don't know if there's enough artifacts or enchantments to main deck this, but I think I'll start at main deck. Not super into these random, more expensive tricks and a little cycling card of Seed of Hope here. But green does look real good. What's green-black look like? Yeah, we'll take a look at all our green and black cards together and then all of our black and red cards together. Kind of get the tiebreaker here. I think they look very evenly powerful. I think it would not be absurd to play either of these color pairs. So we're going to scooch 7 cards to the side, because if I cut them right now, then it's not going to let me click the button to remove all the green cards. So we'll scooch them to the side. We need to scooch 7. We got to cut 7 cards for the green-black deck. Probably Fertilid's Favor. Sitting at 16 creatures, but we also have Tangled Skyline, making it basically 17 creatures, and if we flip any battles, it's going to be even more. This is 4 cards getting cut right now. I guess Adaptation's probably our worst non-creature card, although I like how mana efficient is, only 1 mana. Cut 2 creatures. What are the worst creatures for this deck? Ichor Drinker makes less sense because we don't really have the sacrifice stuff going on as much. We still have the Berserker, which is fine. The Dreg Recycler. It's one of our weaker creatures. I like all of the 2-drops, the 3s. Oilcaster's a bit slow. Yargle. I think I will cut a Yargle, honestly. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put 1 card back in or run 18 lands. I don't think I'm running 18 lands with this many 2-drops. I think we'll be fine. We'll definitely have our early game plays. Oilcaster or Ichor Drinker? Would be better here? Probably Ichor Drinker. Yeah, the curve. We have a mountain of 2-drops, which is definitely always good. Don't have as much to do on 3 mana. Not actually in love with Sailback either. It's probably main deckable in this format, though. I guess the worst case scenario, it's a 5 mana 3/4 haste. That's really not very good, but the best case scenario is great, where it actually does destroy something. Eudora just not that exciting, honestly. It's kind of a 5 mana 5/5 with very, very little text. Because by the time our creatures are dying after we've played a 5-drop, looking at our mana curve, we really don't need much more mana. It'll help us, like, if we play Eudora and then something trades off and we get a land off of it, maybe that makes it so all of a sudden we can play a 4-drop and a 3-drop the next turn or something like that. Like, it might be relevant like 1 time, but it doesn't feel like it will be that often. Just 5 mana 5/5 no text isn't that exciting. I do like our early green rares, though. I like the Invasion of Ixalan and the Deeproot Wayfinder. Yeah, this deck looks super, super fine, super reasonable. Just your average, just pile of good cards. Sealed deck. Do want to take a peek at that black-red deck, though, and I feel like I'm definitely partial to the black-red, and it's probably where we're going to end up. It's got more of that synergy going on. So we need to cut 9 cards out of this. I already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards set aside. So we can cut 3 more cards. Got a lot of 3-drops, and Valdek's definitely the weakest. Get my battle off of the creature curve here. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7 cards getting cut, so 2 more to go. I like Unseal the Necropolis in here. Searching out that Broodlord or getting back a Stormclaw Rager or a Bloated Processor. Maybe because the Unseal kind of works as card draw. Scorn can cycle itself away. Stormclaw Ragers can draw some cards. We're less interested in Ren's Resolve. Especially because it would be really bad if we exile a Broodlord or a Furnace Host Charger with these. I could see cutting 1, maybe 2 of these. Keeping that creature count high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That would be 9 cuts. What are the weakest creatures in here? I feel like our weakest creatures are still just solid filler at worst, like Dreg Recycler. Yeah, I'm pretty cool calling a deck like that. Just cutting the Ren's Resolve. Yeah. I will reiterate, I think our green-black deck looks pretty sweet too. But this looks more synergistic. It still has almost as many 2-drops. It's got a little more going on at 3. Like 1, 2, 3. It's going to have a lot more 1, 2, 3 curves than the other deck would. 1 less removal spell because we don't have Cosmic Hunger, but still some pretty high power stuff. Honestly, I think our Invasion of Mercadia is almost as good as our Invasion of Ixalan because that back half is just so absurd, especially with some sacrifice synergies too, with like Stormclaw Rager. Yeah, deck looks sweet. I think I'm going to go for black-red here. And we really don't have mana fixing in the sealed pool, so I'm not really trying to be junned. Because if we take a look again at our mana fixing, I guess the Storm Wheel thing would be okay in here, because we do have a good amount of 1 mana, 2 mana creatures that can crew it easily. So we could play the Flywheel Racer for some mana fixing to splash in a 3rd color. But that's it. Like, we don't have a Skittering Surveyor. I'm not going to play these Urns of Godfire. And our lands are not overlapping with red or black at all. With Tranquil Cove, Blossoming Sands, Thornwood Falls. So yeah, I don't think I really want to extend my mana base over into a 3rd color with the kind of lack of fixing that we have here. I guess I've got like a cycler for whatever land type. I've got an island cycler. I've got a plain cycler. But I'm pretty happy with this as a 2-color synergy-driven deck. Looks pretty close to something that I would just end up in with draft. So yeah, perfectly happy with this deck. I think I'm going to call it a deck here. Alright, here we have a look at the completed deck list, and it's going to be a Rakdos Sacrifice deck that looks pretty close to something that we could end up with in a draft. So pretty sweet, pretty synergistic deck for a sealed pool. We've got some bombs still, looks like just a pretty powerful deck in general, so I'm pretty into it as a whole. We've got some nice little cheap aggro dorks that can get sacrificed later for some good value. Bunch of 2-mana stuff to do as well. Some cards like Furnace Gremlin and Ral's Reinforcements that provide us with 2 bodies off of 1 card again for sacrifice effects. And the main sacrifice effect that we have is the Stormclaw Rager here. We have 2 copies of these that allow us to filter through some of our 1/1s, some of our incubator tokens, some treasure tokens, maybe from our Beamtown Beatstick, to draw a bunch of cards and make this Rager really big. So that's going to be a huge synergy piece in the deck, one of the key pieces that's going to be quite strong. But again, with this many 1s, 2s, and 3s, we also just have a good aggressive curve in general. We have Bloated Processor as our first bomb rare. Doesn't feel like your normal bomb where it just like hits the board, has to be dealt with, or wins the game, but the amount of value it's going to give us is excellent. It is a 3-mana 3/2 that dies and then replaces itself with another 3/3. That is the worst case scenario. So a 2-for-1 worth of value with an aggressive stat line is quite nice. Some more nice aggressive cards. Zerda's not really a bomb. Zerda's kind of just another solid filler 3-drop in here. Some good removal with Collective Nightmare and double Failed Conversion. And then as we get higher in the mana costs, that is where we see our second bomb rare. This one definitely fits the traditional definition of bomb rare, the Hoarding Broodlord. 8 mana for a 7/6 flyer, but we can convoke it to play it for cheap. And when it enters the battlefield, we search our library for any card, exile it face down, and shuffle, and we can cast it for as long as it remains exiled. Technically, we can play it as long as it remains exiled, so if I really need another land, I can search for a land and then play that, but that's not what we're going to be doing with this. We're just going to be slamming down a 7/6 flyer and then making sure we have another powerful backup play in case our opponent removes the flyer. So really sweet stuff from Hoarding Broodlord. Last but not least, we have a couple battles, Invasion of Mercadia and Invasion of Eldraine, that are both okay on the front half, but what we're really trying to do is flip these early with our aggressive curve of creatures to get the very absurd back halves of these cards. The Flamewright being particularly excellent in this deck because of its ability to spit out multiple 1/1s. We're already making a pretty wide board state, so sometimes just giving our whole board +1/+0 while getting 2 more 1/1s can just end a game. But even if it doesn't end the game, getting a couple 1/1s off of any extra lands that we draw gives us more sacrifice fodder for when we draw another Stormclaw Rager so that we can cycle through them and draw more cards. And then Invasion of Eldraine is just really sweet if you can flip it like immediately, because if you drop this turn 4, you're probably putting your opponent down to 2 or fewer cards in hand. If you flip it immediately, then you have basically a 4/2 flyer, because you can keep hitting them for 2 with it, and its extra ability can keep dealing 2 damage to your opponent as long as they are close to empty-handed. So some sweet battles in the middle of the curve as well. I just put them at the top because I don't like them showing up in the creature curve, since they're not always creatures on turn 2 and turn 4. But that is the deck for today. I'm very excited to see how it does, so without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, here we are for game 1. Pretty nice curve. Dreg Recycler into Artisan into Invasion of Eldraine. Yeah, we have an Aetherblade Agent if I need to get blocking. I don't think I'll be playing the Agent first. Oh no, I've got 2 of them as well. Agent's just not going to be that exciting until we have the 4 mana to flip it, and we only have 2 lands in the hand right now, so don't know when that'll happen. Bloodfeather Phoenix. Can't block. Whenever an instant or sorcery they control deals damage to an opponent or battle, they can spend 1 red to return it from the grave to the battlefield. Give it haste. So we're just guaranteed to take 2 damage in the sky every turn. Don't think it's going to be great to spend a Collective Nightmare on that when it can potentially come back from the grave later. I think we're going to have to try to outrace that. We did miss on our land drop again, so we're stuck on 2 mana, and now our opponent has Bloated Processor. Luckily, Collective Nightmare is very good against that, and we've missed another land drop, so we're definitely going to have to just do that to stay at a healthy life total here. But Collective Nightmare gets to kill it, and their Incubator token is going to be a 0/0, which can still give them value. Can still give them value in a black-red deck. They could find ways to sacrifice that artifact to draw a card like we can in our deck, but at least they won't be hitting us with 2 different creatures off of that. Scrappy Bruiser is the play, and that's a pretty strong one. We've got the Death Toucher to trade into it, but it can trample over. Tax is a 5 power trampler if they want. Yep. I obviously can't attack into that. I think I'll just play my own Bloated Processor now and pass the turn. We did find our 3rd land there, which is beautiful. Ideally, we're going to want to have this Harried Artisan on the board as a Phyrexian Skyflayer, so that we can just have a flyer that's big enough to block the Phoenix without dying. Because again, I don't really want to throw a bunch of removal at the Phoenix and have it potentially keep coming back. Although they have to use spells to shoot me in the face to bring the Phoenix back, so maybe we will use like a failed conversion on it in the future. because I don't think they'll have a lot of spells dedicated to shooting me in the face instead of shooting a creature. Alright, no attack from the Scrappy Bruiser, just sending in the Bloodfeather Phoenix. We're down to 14. Completed Huntmaster. That card is phenomenal. Wish I had one of those in this sealed pool. Had that in my first Black-Red Sacrifice draft deck we did during the early access. Single-handedly won the majority of our games. Yeah, that card's good enough that if I had the mana, I would probably failed conversion the Huntmaster instead of the Phoenix at this point. Making it so anytime an unprofitable trade happens or a combat trick shows up or anything like that, they can get a 3-3 out of the deal. It's really nice. They can also turn this 0-0 into a 3-3. Super good card. Might be on Invasion. Put them down to 1 card in hand here. We can still block everything but the Phoenix, so I just take 2 damage a turn still. Could also play the Artisan so that I can get on my way towards flipping it and blocking Bloodfeather Phoenix. Soak up 6 mana over 2 turns though, which doesn't feel great mana-wise. Yeah, I'm gonna let the Phoenix hit me again. I'm gonna rip away at my opponent's hand a little bit here. Alright, well that was pretty sweet. Got 1 Phyrexian on board, we make that a 4-3 out of nowhere. I don't think it's worth the attack, because they just trade a Bruiser into it. Yeah. Yeah, Invasion of Eldraine managed to get rid of Deadly Derision and Aetherblade Agent. That means their last card in hand's incredible though, so that's not... that's a little spooky. Last card in hand is better than a Deadly Derision. Can the Huntmaster sacrifice itself? I forget. No, it cannot sacrifice itself. Fearless Scald. Well, that explains the card that they kept, because that's going to hit me for 1,000,000. Yeah, we're pretty dead, because the Bruiser gets to attack with Trample and Double Strike. 6 power Trample, Double Strike. Yeah. That is pretty nasty. If I don't block, I'm dead. And all I can do is chump block because of the double strike. That means it basically has 6 power of first strike damage, so it can kill my whole board before it takes any damage on the crackback. Guess I go to 2. But then I'm facing 2 power in the sky and 4 power trampler. Well, no, the Bruiser goes back to their hand here at least. So if I hit the land to failed conversion, the Phoenix. No, then they just Huntmaster sack the Phoenix. Not seeing a way out here. But I think it involves blocking with Processor, gaining a life off Recycler, because I need to have a ton of blockers next turn. So we'll go to 2. Can't guarantee that I hit the mana for conversion. I think I save this because I might be on flip it, play an agent. And obviously I have to sack something when the Phoenix tries to hit me, but let's see. Okay, we don't hit a land, so we can't failed conversion anything. We can play an Aetherblade Agent, have a bunch of death-touching blockers on the ground, and a 3-3. I'm not going to have the life to flip this Artisan at all because of that Fearless Scald play. So we're not going to be able to get a blocker for Phoenix. Gonna have to be on conversion on Phoenix. Yeah, I think we're on Aetherblade Agent, flip the Incubator here. Take exclusively flying damage. So they get to use the Huntmaster to flip that Incubator. Well, they don't flip it, but they turn it into a 3-3 instead of a 0-0 that they can flip later. They have the 6 mana next turn to spend 4 on their Scrappy Bruiser or Scrappy Brawler and flip that Incubator token into a 3/3. Alright, there's Scrappy Bruiser. I was going to say, attacking with the Huntmaster is kind of bold. I would love to have seen that. I don't think we're going to have any outs here again because the attack with the trample plus a flyer next turn. I think we keep a 3/3 because it can block a Huntmaster without dying. We have finally found the 5th land. It is too late though, because if I tap out for conversion, I have 2 blockers against 3 attackers. And this thing has trample. I can only kill the Bruiser or the Phoenix. Yep, we're just dead. Alright. 0-1 to start it off. We just stumbled a bit too hard on mana that game. Had to wait a few turns for land 3, wait a few turns for land 4, wait a few for land 5. Fell pretty far behind, outclassed a bit by a Phoenix and a Brawler. 0-1 heading into game 2. Alright, here we are in game 2 with a wonderful hand. Our opponent is on the play. They're going to start off with a Tranquil Cove. We're going to start a Beamtown Beatstick on the board. I love this card's name. What even is it? It's like a... Oh, it's like a really fancy crowbar. Oh my god, Capenna. The flavor of Capenna is so fun. I want to play Reinforcements or Recycler. With Beatstick on board, I think I want to make just individually large creatures rather than spreading them out. So our blue-white opponent is going to cast a Moment of Truth here to set up their draw. Look at the top 3 cards of their library, put 1 into their hands, 1 into the graveyard, and 1 on the bottom. And they milled a Wrath, I think. Yep. Sweet card from Dominaria United. Blue, white, and black from our opponent, the full Esper. I love Magic the Gathering so much. There's so many planes I want to revisit. Like, I want to go back to Capenna. I didn't love the Capenna limited format, but I found the flavor of it was really fun. So it'd be cool to go back to the plane with a new set with some new mechanics and stuff. I think I'd probably get aggressive here, spend 2 to equip, then they can't block, and then I can play Reinforcements the same turn, because I get the treasure token. I think I like that better than just playing a processor. But yeah, speaking of Esper as well, I really want to go back to Alara. I've wanted to go back to Alara since 2009. Shards of Alara, they were all iconic and very cool. Esper was the white, blue, black color trio that was focused around a bunch of artifacts. It was the first time they made colored artifacts, which were really cool. The kind of filigree art style they used was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. With a Beatstick on board and the fact that they are tapped out from playing another creature, I think I discard my land, weirdly enough. Might be a little sketchy, a little risky here. Go for it. 2 damage to Invasion of Amonkhet, you got it. Now we just play a processor, they have to kill that to hit the invasion. Or I could play the Slasher. Bigger card. I think I'd rather play Processor here right now. It's probably worth it, because this flips into a 4/4 that's a copy of anything in a grave, so like a 4/4 Errant and Giada for a 4/4 flyer. It's probably worth holding 1 elemental back. So even if they have a removal spell, we get to still block. Whereas if they removal spell Bloated Processor and we didn't hold up a 1/1, then they just flip the invasion and we're having a really bad time. So they have to have 2 removal spells to kill their Invasion of Amonkhet. Get their 4/4 flyer out of it. Battles are such an interesting mechanic because they're definitely part of what makes this format kind of a slower format. It's like I could be getting as aggressive as possible here, but I kind of have to not let them get a 4/4 flyer, so I have to hold blockers up even though I'm in kind of the aggro position here. Alright, do they have that and a removal spell? Or just that? It's going to tap down one of my creatures. They do not have another knight, so it won't stun it. So tap down the 1/1. Oh, that is so fine with me. Just force me to trade Processor into that? That's super okay. I'll get an Incubator token off the deal, that's fine. Alright, yeah, get out of here. Get out of here, Completed Huntmaster. Now they only have 1 blocker again. My Beat Stick's putting in so much work. So we're going to have 5 mana. Could play Unseal and hold up the flip of the Incubator. Or I could just play like Slasher. It's probably better to just play Slasher here. Something that's actually big enough to attack into the night well in the future. I don't think I'm playing Invasion of Eldraine until I can immediately flip it. So I'll play that the turn after I play the Slasher, and that feels like it'll be pretty good. Our opponent's down to 11, so we might be nearing the point where we don't even want to attack battles, even if we play them. Just shoot for face damage. I gotta say, the one thing about battles, they are a very interesting, unique mechanic that really makes this format, a lot of the games play out kind of differently like this, where I'm holding up stuff to block this invasion. So they're a cool mechanic and stuff, and they do make this format feel like its own unique thing. I really hope that they don't put a battle in every pack of Lord of the Rings. They could have 1 or 2 battles if they want, but I really like formats always feeling like completely different, and I think that if there was a battle in every pack in Lord of the Rings, it's just going to feel like this set again. Or similar enough to be less interesting. That's a lot of untapped mana here. Not a big fan of that. I think I'm gonna invasion. Maybe they have the counter and then draw 2 and discard a card. If they have that though, then they'll be tapped out after they use it, and they'll just take 7 menace damage. Artistic Refusal is the card. Counter target spell, draw 2 and discard 1. And they can convoke it. Discard an island and a Mirrodin Avenged. Okay. So I could hit them for 4 with Slasher. I could alternatively hit them for 2 with Prickle Fairies by flipping Invasion with it. I guess I only hit for 2 less damage by flipping that right now, and it'll be more damage in the long run if they can't deal with the fairies. That probably attack like this. They still have 2 cards in hand that are better than Mirrodin Avenged Island, so they probably have an instant speed removal for one of these creatures. They might just kill the War Train Slasher, but that would be the same occurrence as if it were attacking me. Oh, interesting. Final Flourish is the card in hand, so they couldn't have killed the Slasher because its toughness is too high. Alright, they play another land, 1 card in hand, and it's a Gloomfang Mauler. That's a very big blocker, but now I've got a real huge flyer. Not a huge flyer, but basically a 4/2 flyer. Double block the Protocol Knight because it has Menace. That leaves them with 1 blocker only, so we're hitting for 6 guaranteed. 7/8 from Prickle Fairy's ability, so if I just put a Beat Stick onto either of these creatures, they are dead. I actually could have hit for overkill here. Yeah, because Fairies is going to do 2 to them in the upkeep. But I could have also just flipped the Incubator and put the Menace onto that. Then they would have died right now. Plus, yeah, they'd be at -1 right now, and then take 2 more damage from Prickle Fairies during their next turn. Yeah, they were egregiously dead there. To the Beamtown Beatstick. Beamtown Beatstick, MVP of that game. Opponent constantly having just like the one creature on board. That made sure we could keep getting in, and the treasure tokens were really valuable, making sure we could keep playing our spells. So 1-1 as we head into game 3. Here we are on the play for game 3. We've got a curve. It's not a great one, but it's not worth a mulligan. Turn 2 Aetherblade Agent. Oh, what are you looking for? Oh, Fibblethip is totally lost. He's looking around on the map. Doesn't know what's going on. That's so adorable. Lithomantic Barrage. That's exceptionally rude. Alright, well here's our Harried Artisan. Start chipping in for 2. Got the mana to put a Beat Stick on the Artisan and play Frontliner here, so I'll go for that rather than flipping Artisan. If they've got removal, they've got removal. It's better. This also plays better if they have removal. I guess I could have held on to the treasure in case I get another attack in with Artisan next turn to play Charger, or in case I top deck a land. Might have been worth it. Just kind of playing on a coin flip, but if we win that coin flip, it's great. Alright, we didn't win that coin flip anyway, so never punished. Rewarded for not taking that line. I don't know what's going on with our opponent's hand here. Maybe a Stoke the Flames for 4 damage? Yep. Alright, so goodbye to Artisan. I can still play Slasher here and hit them for 2. This is solid. Both of our creatures are going to have Menace again. So if they just play one really big blocker, they're going to take a lot of damage. Take 7, go down to 6 here. They've got 5 mana. They have blue, green, and red. Could be Borborygmos and Fibblethip. Aw, Sailback's actually pretty good against us. Goodbye, Beatstick. Sadness on the stack. Uh-oh, another 5-drop. Yeah, probably getting a little greedy with this Charger. I don't think I had the 2 mana to Mountain Cycle it before, ever, though. But yeah, I think I should just Mountain Cycle it during their end step to guarantee my failed conversions are active. Because then if I flood out after failed conversions, I can Surveil if I put these on creatures with less than 4 toughness. Alright. That's terrible. They get a 2-1 every turn. Okay, now if I flood out after I Mountain Cycle this Charger, I'm going to be in a really bad position, but I have to guarantee I can kill Brutaclad immediately before it gives them more 2-1s. Okay. Well, we're not going to flood out. I can confirm that. I actually don't have any black creatures on the board, so if I draw into my triple black Convoke Dragon, I won't be able to cast it without hitting some more swamps. Slight argument to keeping a swamp for that. I think I'm gonna not do that though, because almost every other non-land in my deck I would rather just have more spells to play right now. 1-for-1 trade if they double block. Not doing much here. Okay, for some reason I thought this would only Surveil if it did like XS minus X minus X. I think I was getting confused with that, and then Nahiri's Warpath, that's like 5 damage to a target. If you deal excess damage, then you get to draw another card off of it. This one you just always get the Surveil, that's pretty nice. You have the mana to flip that immediately? I don't think so. 4 mana, nothing produces a mana, nothing untaps a land. Yeah, we got to kill that. Or that'll be a 5/5 trample. Just gets over our board. Forces a double block or starts casting spells from our hand. Well, good to have removal against these bombs. Surveil 2 again. Hiker Drinker. I'm very happy to put that in my grave. That's sweet value. Now we get a 2/2. Not immediately, but we get the incubator to turn into a 2/2. Halo Charged Scab. They get to return a battle, instant, or sorcery, so probably Stoke the Flames to the top. Oh, they've got double Stoke the Flames in the sealed pool. That's really good. Oh, and they milled the battle. They could choose that if they want. Stoke the Flames it is, though. Gonna try to break through our War-Trained Slasher. Ooh, Stormclaw Rager. It's pretty nice. I've got the mana to double buff a Gremlin. Blocks as a 3-power thing. Can't play Rager Gremlin and flip my Incubator. Rager's a sorcery speed ability, I think, so I don't think I actually have anything I want to sacrifice right now. Yeah, it's a sorcery speed ability. I think I just want to play Furnace Gremlin, hold up the ability to buff that, and the ability to flip my Incubator. I'm just going to pass turn. Alright. Unseal the Necropolis. Worst case scenario, we pick up a Harried Artisan to play immediately, and a Furnace Host Charger. Probably a little better than Stormclaw Rager right now, I think. Ooh. Milled my final removal spell, so we're going to have to hope they don't play any more bombs. Alright, here's your Stoke the Flames target. Otherwise, we will start chipping away with a flyer next turn. But they can wait to Stoke the Flames it until next turn. If they want. They're just going to shoot it now. Cool. Invasion of Kamigawa. They've got 2 of that as well. Got a lot of duplicates. Two duplicate uncommons there. Alright, show me your combat trick that's going to ruin my day. No combat trick. There is no disappointment, and my day is fine. They're down to a 3/4 and a 2/1 now. Just play a 5/5 and attack. I don't really want to let them flip this Invasion of Kamigawa, though, because then they get a flyer that keeps drawing them cards, which is horrific. So maybe it's better to just play Processor Rager and pass. I've got multiple blockers out, 2 of which will turn into a Incubator token when they die. The Gremlin and the Processor. And if I end up having to chump block with something, we'll just chump block with Gremlin. It's okay to just have a 1/1 Incubator token when I have a Stormclaw Rager on the board. Especially because Processor can sack something at instant speed, and the Gremlin is a Phyrexian to get sacrificed to it. Furnace Rains, they're going to gain control of my Stormclaw Rager. Can it sack itself? It can't sacrifice itself. They get to sack their 2/1 to draw a card here. They might have another sacrifice effect. That would be rough. Also be kind of surprising in blue, green, red. Make a 4/4 that must be blocked to Fable. Okay, they're just trying to flip that invasion. That does guarantee they do flip it if they attack with everybody. But they have to attack with everybody to flip it. Okay, this does not flip it, which is A-okay with me. So we're gonna go... You don't have to block it with everybody there. Now I can go like that. Sack the Gremlin. We trade into the Sailback. We're gonna have 2 tokens left. We'll get our Stormclaw Rager back and they won't flip the invasion. There is a thought that could be had where we might want to try to leave as many creatures on board as possible to crack back for lethal. The problem with that is they're going to have a 2-1 and a 2-3 flyer to block with if the invasion flips. So they'll have multiple blockers and definitely won't die on the crackback. Mountain's just a creature till end of turns. They're going to be down to a single 2-1 after this play, which I think is just great for us. They did not want to sack their treasure to draw a card. Yeah, they're over it. They're down to a 2-1, and I'm guessing the card in hand is not good. We're just going to slam down a 5-5. I mean, we've got a 4-power incubator. Yeah, we've got really good lines now. I think we'd spend 1 mana, sack this incubator, draw a card, and go from there. Because then we might want to play the land, play a 5-5 haste. Or if we draw another cheap spell, we could just flip a 4-4 to attack them with and still play whatever cheap spell we drew. Really good position after that combat. Getting them down to a single 2-1. All right. 2-1. Excellent work from the Rakdos Sakdos deck. The Stormcloak Ragers from Skyrim coming in hot. And we're heading into round number 4. All right, here we are in game 4. One of our slower hands, just going to start with a 3-mana creature. Nothing to sacrifice for it, but we've got a great removal spell. Solid battle coming up. Still keep the hand. Definitely hoping to draw into some nice cheap creatures, some 1s or 2s to run out on turn 2. We'll see what we get here. Opponent's got some pretty sweet sleeves. I've never seen these before. Don't know exactly what's going on here. It's like a spirit procession or something. All right, we've drawn another land. Could definitely flood out here. We are 5 lands deep. Looking for some more action. Playing against a blue-black deck. They've got a Jumpstart Swamp and a Innistrad Island. That Jumpstart Swamp is super sweet, though. Don't love just running out the Rager, because if they have any removal, it's probably going to get drawn out on the Rager. I could play Ichor Drinker and still hold up Collective Nightmare with that Convoke. Then next turn I could play Rager and immediately sack the Drinker to draw 1 card off of Rager at least. Probably best to just run it out here. Be mana efficient. Just hope they don't have some cheap removal. This is sealed. They are at the mercy of what they open, so they just might not have a ton in their sealed pool to consistently have it ready at turn 3. I think the common removal spells in black, there's the 2 mana instant that would work here, but then there's the 4 mana instant and the 5 mana enchantment. Both of those would be too expensive to slam down immediately here. All right, no removal yet. We draw into an Invasion of Mercadia. Interesting to me. I think we're just going for Ichor Drinker nonsense right now. 1/1 lifelink doesn't matter too much on board, so I'll just immediately sack it to draw a card. The 2/2 Incubator token, though, might be good enough to not just immediately sacrifice. Okay, that's fine. Still get my card draw, which is the important part. Aetherblade Agent is the draw. Don't really like Aetherblade Agent versus Nezumi Informant, but if I turn it into a 3/3 Death Toucher, it's pretty good. If they don't follow up with a creature to block other than the Informant. Yeah, I don't really have anything super expendable to discard to Invasion of Mercadia right now, so Aetherblade Agent seems fine. Probably just setting up the flip into the Gataxian Mindstinger. Nezumi Freewheeler, well that's a great card. For 5 mana and 2 life, they flip it into a 4/5 menace. And return a permanent with mana value 2 or less from a graveyard to the battlefield under their control. That is really, really good, yeah. I like to hold up Collective Nightmare so I can kill that in response to them activating the ability. Which means I need 3 creatures on the board or 3 mana up, or any combination of that. So, I play Berserker, I have 2 creatures on board. I could then Ichor Drinker, flip the token, then I have 3 creatures on board, which is enough to Collective Nightmare. Right, 1 mana to play, 2 to flip? Yes. Okay, I think we can do this. Yes, we can. Alright. So now I'm holding up Collective Nightmare while having no mana untapped. So it doesn't even look like I'm holding up an instant, which is always sweet. Go to combat, send in a 3/3 menace, you got it. Phyrexian Censor, that's a really annoying card that makes it so we can't play and flip a battle in the same turn. Because we can only cast 1 non-Phyrexian spell each turn. Super, super annoying, but I think Nezumi Freewheeler is still the scarier card. A 4/5 menace and return an Aetherblade Agent to their board at worst. Yeah, that's just a scarier card. Well, Cybo Cryptomancer is pretty disgusting there. Now it's going to be a 5/6 menace. Guess I get to make them discard their whole hand at least. Get a little bit of revenge here. I think I will play the land to hold up the 1 mana sack ability. Aha, take that. Oh my god, they had another Cryptomancer? We were never resolving any removal spells then. Okay. We are just passing the turn. Now they flip the Freewheeler for great value. I can double block with Aetherblade Agent and Berserker, draw the card off Berserker, and still kill the Freewheeler off of Death Touch, and then they don't have that much power toughness left on board. I guess they'll have an Aetherblade Agent. That'd be the scariest thing they'll have. But they won't have a 5/6 anymore. They're just going to pick up their Urn of Godfire for another removal spell? They're going to pick up the Cryptomancer. Why? I think I'm more okay with them picking up a Cryptomancer than I would have been them having an agent to try to start drawing cards off of. I guess Censor's a 4/4 now? That is a thing. Now all I have to do is find a way to deal with a 4/4 and we'll balance things out. Okay. Is this a Phyrexian? No. So if I play Invasion of Mercadia, I don't get to play Stormclaw Rager. Stormclaw Rager doesn't exactly block the Censor well, though. feel like I need to draw into something better to deal with this. I can take another hit of 4 damage, just block their 1/1. They don't really hit me with anything else right now. None of these are Phyrexians. They are good cards, though. Now we can failed conversion the Phyrexian Sensor. Is it okay to take 5 damage here? It is alright to take 5 instead of 4, so maybe I send one of these there, but all I'm going to do is kill a Cryptomancer, and then I'm putting myself at risk of them just like playing their own Invasion of Eldraine and immediately flipping it. It would probably be worth a chump to stop them from doing that. If they hit a battle here. Alright, take our 4 damage, go down to 9. Some more action from our opponent. The Attentive Skywarden's a 2/2 flyer. I did draw a Phyrexian creature. So now I can actually play... Oh, non-Phyrexian creatures enter tapped too? Dang. I was going to say, now I could play Zerda and Gremlin in the same turn and block Censor with a 3/3 and a 2/2. But not if Zerda hits the board tapped. Like, I feel like I have to failed conversion the flyer and try to find blocks on the ground for the Censor. That means I just take another 4 this turn. This is sketchy. They have a 3rd Cyber Cryptomancer. No, they do not have a 3rd Cyber Cryptomancer. 5/5 Phyrexian Giant does block a 4/4, but I need the 6th mana. Okay, I think I do order it like that and then pass. Down to 5. There's the 6th mana. I can play a Furnace Gremlin now. Bump it to 3 power, double block Censor. Just play the rest of my creatures for more blockers. Gremlin spits out another Incubator. Well, that can't be good. They need 7 or more cards in hand to flip it, but every time they cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, they draw a card now. Also a 5/5. I think it's better to have the 2 mana to flip the token I get out of Gremlin than it is to get a slightly bigger token from the Gremlin, so that I have enough blockers to block their 5/5 and 1/1 next turn. Alright, here's a 5/5 for their 5/5. Pass from there. Another Phyrexian Sensor. Don't have any Phyrexians to play, so whatever I do hits the board tapped, which means that Censor gets a good attack in. This card is egregious. Now Jin-Gitaxias gets to draw them cards as they cast removal spells. They have 2 freewheelers as well. We've got a very sick sealed pool. Now we are dead on board. They can just flip the freewheeler and attack with everybody. Can block Jin-Gitaxias and a 2/2, but then they get in with Menace for lethal. Even without the 1/1. Got a Wrath as well. Can buff the whole board and give it Vigilance every turn. We are tremendously dead. There's just a pretty large disparity in card quality in this matchup. We are going to get exploded out of the game. Fibblethip's face. About to go boom. They have lethal on board if they just attack with everybody. But they might not see it. Yeah, there we go. Deaders. We are 2-2 now, heading into game 5. Alright, here we are on the play for game number 5. We've got 2 cards in our hand we can't cast unless we hit a black source. I do have 9 black sources in the deck, and if we hit any land, we've got 3 pretty strong castable spells. If I miss on my first couple lands, I've got Gremlin and Reinforcement still. Definitely a hesitant keep, but I think it is a keep here. Rather than going down a card, because we've got some spells to play. Regardless of what happens, and again, drawing a swamp just makes it a perfectly reasonable hand. Whereas without the swamp, we still have plays for the first 3 turns, most likely. It's doing it again. This doesn't have the special card style it's supposed to have. So we do immediately hit the swamp, which is beautiful. I'm not going to spend any mana buffing the Gremlin. If I want to hit as hard as possible, I play Reinforcements. If I want to start drawing cards, potentially I play Agent. I think I'm going to play Agent here. Could play Agent into Zerda, and then Agent's ability only costs 2 mana to flip it, which means on turn 4, if I keep hitting lands, I get to flip my Aetherblade Agent and play a 2 mana spell, which would be very cool. Alright, they're just going to turn it into a 0/2. That's fine as well. Okay, curve out here, drop our 3-drop. We're playing against another blue-white deck for round 5. Alright, not sure what's going on here, but our opponent is AFK for some reason. I'm going to spread out the board since we drew into Hoarding Broodlord. This way, if I hit a swamp, I can cast it immediately. If we didn't just draw Hoarding Broodlord, we'd probably just play Frontliner or Gremlin. Either of those is pretty good. But now we've got 2 black, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So top deck swamp means we can play Broodlord next turn by playing Reinforcements this turn. Alright, our opponent AFK'd through their next turn as well. Not hit the swamp for the Broodlord, so we'll just hit for as much as we can and drop another creature. I'll go Frontliner. We're early enough in the game, we're not going to be dumping mana into this Furnace Gremlin. Oh, I just realized Zerda makes it so even cycling abilities cost 1 less. I guess that was probably the idea in Ikoria, because cycling was a big part of that format. But I could have mountain cycled the Furnace Host Charger as well, which I think would be fine here. It wouldn't actually help us cast our Broodlord, but it would give us more mana to dump into Gremlin in the future, and because we have Unseal the Necropolis, we could just pick up the Furnace Host Charger if we really want it. So, yeah, I didn't realize I could mountain cycle for only 1 mana. If I realized that, I probably would have done that. Played another land that turn. I guess I could have done it before playing Frontliner, even if it cost 2 mana. I could have went 2 mana mountain cycle, play the mountain, tap 2, play Frontliner. Not paying the most attention here because our opponent has just AFK'd their last several turns. Alright, and they are going to just get the timeout loss there, so something must have come up, or Arena had a glitch or something. We are going to get a free victory for the 3rd win. Not a great way to win a game, but a W is a W. We're going to be at 3-2 now, heading into game number 6. Here we are for game 6. Not an incredible hand here. A little high on mana being the biggest issue, but we've got a turn 2, turn 3 play. We've got a good late game play for value. So we have the start to a reasonable game of Magic. We'll just need to draw some more cards to find what we're doing on curve. Recycler versus Agent. Agent into Artisan into Flip Agent turn 4 feels more exciting than playing Recycler here. Definitely losing out on some early game damage we're dealing to them, but we don't have enough action in this hand for me to be confident that I can just beat my opponent down and get much value from doing extra damage. They are just immediately going to remove the Aetherblade Agent with their final flourish. That will definitely slow us down. Our opponent is on red, black, and white with a Sigiled Sentinel here. It has a 3/3 Vigilance, which is going to completely shut this hand down until we can flip the Artisan, because all we have are 2/2s and 2/3s. So the 3 mana 3/3 on curve looking pretty exceptional on this board state. The Vigilance is awesome as well. They get to just chip at me and hold up the blocker still so I can't attack them at all. Unless I flip the Artisan, I don't even really think it's that worth it. I could flip it and just hold it up as a blocker, but I don't think like flipping it and attacking is very exciting here. Because then I shoot myself for 2, go down to 15, take 5 on the crackback just to deal 3 to them. I think I'm just flipping it and holding it as a blocker, hoping they don't have a ton of removal in their sealed pool. Although combat tricks would get me pretty hard here as well. Skittering Surveyor. Excellent mana fixing. Another swamp for our opponent. They will pass the turn. The 3/4 is going to be too big, too chunky. Only got 1 creature in grave, so it's a risk to unseal the Necropolis. We might not draw 2 off of it. If they can't get through the Skyflayer, I don't think I'm failed conversioning the Sentinel, because we only have like 3 removal spells in this deck, so it's probably better to keep it in case they hit a scarier card. They are in 3 colors, so they're going to be running a minimum of like 3/5 of their bombs. 3 out of 5 colors over there. Almost definitely have stuff that's scarier than a 3/3 Vigilance. Alabaster Host Intercessor, that counts. That's going to make me reflip the Skyflayer, which is a pretty big bummer. Okay, don't really mind doing this. I kind of need to kill this Temerit if I want to actually draw anything off of Unseal the Necropolis, though. think I trade the 1/1s for the Timoret, then when I conversion the Alabaster Host, I get a 2/3 black, 2/3 back, and I can block a Sentinel with a 2/3 and a 2/2. They only kill one of them. I guess I could block a Sentinel with a 2/3 and a 1/1 also, but either way, they'll just kill my 2/3. I think I'd rather keep Recycler. Okay. Conversion the Intercessor. These can definitely go in the grave. I'm happy I did not play a land yet, because now I get to incubate with the Ichor Drinker. I'll let them kill the Artisan. Kill the Sentinel here. Oh, well, that's not good. I don't have anything in my sealed pool that can deal with that. I guess I have my one green card that if I had a Death Toucher on board, I could have my green card shoot it for 1 damage with the Death Toucher. But my white removal would just pacify it. My black removal doesn't deal -6/-6. My blue removal, I think I only had like return to hand. I just can't beat a Shieldred in this sealed pool, period. It's pretty sweet. Well, if I draw another failed conversion, I could double up failed conversion and collective nightmare. Do find my Death Toucher. Stop them from attacking for a turn. But then they just pass turn, make me sack it again, and they get a creature from their graveyard back to the board each upkeep. So they're going to get back Norn's Inquisitor and go wide, or Sigil Sentinel, give Shieldred Vigilance. Oh yeah, Shieldred has Swamp Walk, so I can't even block Shieldred anyway. No, we're so egregiously murdered here. It's not even funny. Yeah, I mean, I guess if Shieldred has Swamp Walk, it genuinely doesn't matter. I think I still do take Bloated Processor. Play Recycler and flip this. They probably just give Shieldred Vigilance and kill me in 2 swings. I guess they kill me in 2 swings either way. Yeah, that's fair. Norn's Inquisitor off the top. 2 more creatures. Okay, they had 1 in hand and 1 off the top and 1 in grave. They have 3 Norn's Inquisitor in their deck. In sealed. Now they flip for twice as many counters. They flip as 4/4s. If they reanimate the other Inquisitor, they all flip as 5/5s. Well, now I don't feel as bad about taking the free win last round. Definitely feels better to go 3-3 than 2-3, but either way, not a great sealed run today. I think our deck was pretty solid, pretty synergistic. It was at least the second best deck we could have built in this sealed pool, in my opinion. Again, maybe black-green was moderately better, but overall, one of our more consistent decks in the sealed pool. I think there's no way we weren't playing black here because black had as good removal as any color we could get. White was pretty much tied on removal, so if we wanted to just play as many removal spells as possible to try to outplay some bombs, the best we could have done was a black-white deck where we would still only have one way to deal with Shieldred. Could slow them down for sure with Realmbreaker's Grasp, but we'd only have cut short to actually permanently get rid of Shieldred. I guess Alabaster Host Intercessor would also theoretically work, but that only works until they play their Intercessor on ours or any of their other removal on our Intercessor, then they can just get Shieldred back. So really the only guaranteed way to deal with it is the cut short. How were our blue bounce spells? We did have one Temporal Cleansing to slow it down. That's it out of blue. Nothing in black that's unconditional. 0 in red, and in green it's only Cosmic Hunger. Yeah, we were going to have a rough time in that Shieldred match in any of our deck builds. Yeah, I think this is one of the more consistent, solid curve kind of decks we could have had. We're using all of our strongest rares with Hoarding Broodlord and Bloated Processor, some of our most decent removal with Collective Nightmare, a couple failed conversions. Could have been black-white, a little less sack stuff going on there. The Beat Stick was awesome out of red. Yeah, I don't think black-white looked much better than this. We had more removal, but not the kind of removal that really would have mattered in our losses. We do get a Knight Errant of Eos, or Eos, which was pretty cool. Tiller of Flesh to go with all the removal would work fine. Again, I don't think there was like an incredible deck in the sealed pool. There were a bunch of very similar power level ones. Don't think we would have done dramatically better. But black-white did look solid, as did black-green, but we already had a look at that one. All right. Can't win them all. We'll grab a 3 and 3 today for this sealed run. Again, I think black-white and black-green probably average out to doing just as well as our black-red deck did there. I don't think we could have hoped for too much more out of this sealed pool. I don't see any other sealed decks that I think would have won a lot more games or won all the games that we lost today. I think this just averages out to where our sealed pool, where our deck was probably going to be it black-red, black-white, or black-green. So 3-3 run to start it off, 1,200 gems and 3 packs as the reward. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons for supporting the channel and thank you for watching. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more in your recommended feeds. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.